Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's expert webinar titled Masterclass Words Matter. Make an impact with your choice of words. I am Ria from Springpeople. We are India's largest enterprise training provider and I will be your moderator for today's session. In today's session, we have Ms. Mira, an army child who was trained early on how to help people create an impactful first impression that lasts. Being a coach and speaker for impactful communication and executive presence, she helps business professionals gain impact and influence by shifting how they communicate and present themselves. Mira also delivers on her purpose through corporate workshops and speaking engagements on soft skills like being charismatic, creating likability, difficult conversations, influencing outcomes, business storytelling, business communication, and more. She has been particularly successful with companies in the consulting, IT, FMCG, and banking industries that are concerned about the impact of their employees' communication and presence on their stakeholders. It's gratifying to create hand-in-glove training and coaching modules that help her participants save time, attention, and money. Mira's intention: simplify communication and presence for people in a way that allows borders to dissolve and communities to thrive. In today's webinar, Mira will let us know about exploring the journey of 5 chairs, owning behavior, becoming aware of our thoughts and the dialogues it creates, discovering ways to neutralize blame, the key to assertiveness, bringing up what matters most, sympathy versus empathy. To all the participants, you can mention your question in the chat box and it will be answered at the end of the session. Now, without further ado, let's start today's session. I would like to invite Ms. Mira Swarup to start the session. Over to you, Mira.
Thank you so much, Ria. I really appreciate you walking me through this introduction. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I'm quite excited to be here with everybody. I trust everybody can see the presentation. Ria, could you confirm that for me, please?
Yes, it is visible. Thank you.
While I bring this conversation to all of you, this is an opportunity for me to walk you through what it means to communicate with impact. And so that this conversation is of most use and understanding in your practical world, allow me to take you through a certain few aspects. I'd like to first start by introducing myself slightly differently from how Ria already did. I like to call myself an army brat. And I say that because my father was in the forces and my grandparents were also in the forces. There's a lot of influence from that space on what I do. I didn't know that the influence would come so strong because I did go on to doing something else. But in 15 years of school education, I've changed 9 schools, traveled the length and breadth of this country, been exposed to various scenarios and regions, and a good amount of what I do today can significantly be contributed from there. And I will come to that in just a bit. While I was still figuring what I want to do career-wise, I'd like to clarify that I did my bachelor's in biotechnology, I did my master's in clinical research, and I've worked in the healthcare sector for 10 years. I was working very closely with doctors where we're working on clinical research and working with asthma, cardiology, oncology. There is this joke in the pharmaceutical industry that cardiologists think they are gods and oncologists think they are gods of gods. It's a joke, so we can take it lightly. What I need you to get is that that journey in the corporate exposed me to learning how to be with people who, for whatever reasons, demonstrate superiority, a strong sense of authority. In other words, you could even call it an ego. Being able to operate with them when I'm way many layers in the hierarchy down being able to have a strong hold on the key concern that I need to talk to them, whether it's about telling a doctor you enrolled a patient wrong, or it's about telling a doctor that we aren't following the protocol like it's meant to be. Having hard, difficult conversations is something I learned pretty early there. And while I was realizing that, okay, this is a good field and I'm good at what I do, yet something else was calling. And it was evident that what I want to eventually take my career towards is helping borders dissolve and communities thrive. So my intention has been to offer communication and executive presence to audience like you, professionals. And I'd again like to go back to the original route from where I started when I said that my journey started when I was in the forces. And I want to give you a little view from there. You see, when we walk around beautiful networking rooms or big agenda rooms or meeting rooms, or we go to a big gathering, there is a little conversation that goes on in our head. This person that I just saw walk in, suppose somebody walks into the room and you see that person, the thought that may run in your mind is, this person was probably born with it. They're just born charismatic. They just know how to present themselves. And the moment we think that, we distance ourselves from that becoming our own reality. Like we instantly dismiss, this could be your future too. So I'm inviting you to see, when I was growing up in the forces myself, I got a chance to see a girl join the army or a boy join the army. When I say join, it could be they got commissioned into the forces, or they got married into the forces, or they were born in the forces. And when I saw these three journeys, it was starting to show that a select few, not all, a select few boys transformed to gentlemen, girls transformed to ladies. I'm using the word transformation, not change. A butterfly doesn't change back into a caterpillar. I got a chance to see a select few walk this journey of transformation. And that's when it started to seep in. Wow, this skill of presenting yourself, speaking powerfully, impactfully, has nothing to do with your genetics. You could be from a very far distant village, you have no necessary interaction on an ongoing basis, but you have chosen to be in an environment and now absorb the maximum from that environment. It's a choice that you make. It has nothing to do with your genetics. That empowered me. Wow, this is learnable. This is something we can carry forward to people and give to them and have them embrace it and find themselves in more influential rooms, in powerful scenarios, and find themselves succeeding in those scenarios. So, with that similar intention, I bring our conversation to you today. It's important for me to share with you that I also regularly run corporate trainings across various organizations. You can see certain brands mentioned here. And another thing that I like to proudly share, is that I'm also a certified bachelor therapist. Bachelor therapy is the beautiful science where we use natural herb essences, natural flower essences. We use natural essences to help heal people mentally, physically, and emotionally. It's a big domain, and I'm happy to share about it in a separate scenario. So that's a little bit about what I do professionally. I'd also like to share that I have had a chance to host a podcast called Naukri with Workwise, pardon me, Workwise with Naukri. And this podcast has had several guests from the corporate industry, where we have people from different sets of experiences and backgrounds has helped them succeed at what they do, and giving a lot of information around certain areas people know. So inviting you to tune into this podcast as well. I also would like to share that I've been featured in BizTalk for being an entrepreneur and a communication coach. And these are a few of the things that I could showcase. Let's come back to our goal today. Our goal today is immense value to you. It's 4:30 p.m. You could be in any part of the world right now, but you're here. And I appreciate you taking the time to be here with an intent on working on your communication. So I'm intentional that today, whatever we cover is of practical value to you, and you walk away with a new formed way of communicating, especially in difficult circumstances. So right away, as we go into this presentation, I'm inviting you to the concept of the 5 chairs. Before I dive into the 5 chairs, I'm inviting all of you to take one moment of reflection. I'd like you to think of a recent time when you had a difficult conversation. A difficult conversation that could be defined as something where you wanted something to happen as an outcome, and that outcome either was not accomplished after that conversation. You went to have a conversation so that dash outcome could be produced, but that outcome didn't happen. And the second is, you had the conversation, you got the outcome, whether it was an approval or the other person agreeing to do what you wanted them to do. There was an outcome, but you just didn't like the way it happened. You didn't like who you were in the conversation. You didn't like the way the conversation happened, or even if the outcome happened, the path to it was just not the best form for you. So in this moment, I would like you to think of a situation where you have had a difficult conversation, reflect upon it before I walk into the next conversation. Ria, at this time, may I request you to launch the first poll for all of us?
Sure, Mira, just give us 1 second.
Thank you so much. So as you would all see on your screen right now, there would be a poll, and I'd like you all to remember that difficult interaction that you had and check for yourself, was your purpose of that interaction met? Was it yes? Was it no? Was it partially? Let's have you get some clarity there. Okay, got it. Great. I'm now going to hold ourselves on this particular poll because I can clearly see that even though when you had a difficult conversation, yes, your goal was met, that's a 30%. No, your goal wasn't met, that's a 30%. And partially the goal was met, that's a 41%. So broadly, one thing is clear that about 70% aren't completely satisfied with the results that came out. For those of you from that difficult interaction, when that goal was met, I trust that you're satisfied with it. But if there's a chance that even if your goal was met and you're not satisfied with it, this conversation is completely with the intention of helping you. So with that, allow me to dig back into our presentation. Ria, could you help me close the poll? Okay, I can close it here right now. Yes, we're back to the presentation now. Yes. So with that said, if you now have a clear understanding of you having a difficult interaction with someone and that interaction did not go as well as you would have liked it to, there was something said or you found yourself not as effective in communicating what you wanted to communicate, what you were talking about was important, and therefore you're wondering how to go about it. So with that said, I'm inviting you to now bring your fullest attention because we're going to walk you through a simple model that you could take back to your life right at the end of this webinar. It's a model where you will see 5 chairs. Each chair will represent this. When we communicate, our understanding of communication is usually this: a select set of words that come out of our mouth, what we tend to listen from our ears, and a little bit of body language and tone. So therefore, our efforts on communication is really to just get a good grip on what we speak and what we hear and our body language and tone. Today's conversation, we're going to approach communication very differently. So I want you to now not look at what comes out of your mouth, but really go 2 steps behind and look at what's happening here in your head regarding the situation and the person you're speaking with, or the set of people that you're speaking with. There is some sort of a thought that goes on in your mind when you're in that situation. So each chair that you see on the screen will represent a certain kind of thought. I repeat, each chair you see on the screen represents a certain kind of thought. I want to clarify upfront. The chair does not describe a personality type, because you will see different kinds of chairs and you will see a different thought coming out of it. But that's not necessarily a thought process. It's not necessarily the only way a person can be. I wouldn't want you to see it as a personality type. I'd like you to see solitary. If you didn't find yourself effective in a conversation, this is your tool to diagnose what were you probably thinking that led you to where you are, that led you to communicate what you did, that led you to present yourself in that manner. And how do we alter that outcome by shifting our chair? I think I've said enough. So I'm going to jump in directly into the 5 chairs. Each chair represents a thought. Please remember that. Each chair will be represented by a color, a number, a name, and an animal. As we go along, it'll get disclosed to you. So stay with me. Called as the attack chair, is also represented by the animal, the jackal. Now, when we look at this animal, let's look at it in its natural habitat. If you carried a camera around, you're a wildlife photographer, you're really looking very close up to how this animal behaves. In its environment, it is an extremely alert animal. It has extremely sharp listening skills. It can hear something at a really, really far distance, very, very alert. It has fantastic hunting skills, so it can survive well. It can also go without food for a few days. Its survival skills are exemplary. So a jackal is known to be a very, very sturdy breed in the animal kingdom. And while we see it so strong, or let's use the word like a survivor, I'd like you to now take you to the other side of it. This animal, as soon as it hears something at a far distance that at the slightest seems like threat, it'll immediately come into an attack position. So you see its back get curled up, its claws would come out, it'll start digging into the ground. That's the kind of position this animal takes when it senses the slightest of threat. Now let's equate this to how we behave in the human world. When in a conversation, which is not going as effectively well, when in a conversation you are seeing yourself judge, blame, criticize, label. I repeat, when you see yourself judge the other person for something that they did, criticize them for an action or a choice, you are, for instance, even blaming them for something that they did wrong, or you are labeling them. Labeling as in you would call them lazy, stupid, dumb, arrogant, rude, or anything of the sort. Now, let me clarify. Judging, criticizing, blaming, labeling doesn't just happen because you spoke it out of your mouth. We're not talking about things that come out of your mouth yet. We're talking about what's happening 2 steps here. That means what's really happening in the head space. What are you thinking? So on the surface, you're like this tactful person who knows how to present themselves and not utter a word off. Internally, when you have a tough stakeholder in front of you, the first thing that might be running through your head is, what a jerk. Who the hell does he think he is? That's a possibility. So you want to know that when we're in the red chair, there is a certain impact of it on us. And I want to take you through that. So let's consider this. I'm in a boardroom meeting. Okay, let me put it differently. I'm meeting a group of stakeholders. There are 4 stakeholders I'm meeting. One of them I have a certain credibility with. The other 3 don't know me. They really don't have a good hang of me. And therefore, when they come on, I start to present barely 5 minutes into the presentation, just 5 minutes into the presentation. Imagine there is somebody sitting in the audience, and for reference, let's call him Mr. Mehta. I hope there are no Mehtas on the audience. Let's play with the role here. So Mr. Mehta says, this is a rubbish idea. It's not going to work. Now, I am the one who's presenting. and I see Mr. Mehta says this is a rubbish idea, it's not going to work. And I just drop dead and I just stare for a moment. I haven't said a word. I haven't really even humphed over or shown my disagreement for him, but I'm just looking at him. And while I'm looking at him, in my head, there is clear chatter that says, who the hell does he think he is? How dare he stop me in the middle of my presentation? And then while I'm thinking all this, an impact of that is my body is tensing up. I can feel the strain in my neck to the extent that I might even bring my arms across me and I might cross in that moment because I don't want to deal with this person. You see the amount of judgment I'm carrying or the amount of blame I'm carrying for this person? That's the red chair. And that's something that happens, as we would say, oh, it's such a human thing to do. You would get upset when things are not aligned as for you. Whatever the case, I'd like all of us to see you were in the red chair, there is an impact on the conversation. Because they're standing there, I'm going to say, yes, Mr. Mehta, I can see you have something to say. So you see, my words were fine. Yes, Mr. Mehta, I can see you have something to say, but my tone just gives it away. The low volume with which I speak is demonstrating I don't like you interfering in my presentation. So with that, I can have you start to think of if that difficult conversation happened for you, were you possibly on the red chair? That's something for you to reflect upon. Because when you're in the red chair, your ability to have a cohesive connection with the person significantly breaks. Your ability to have any form of a given exchange with the person significantly comes down. We're really just talking on the surface, but deep inside, we're deeply disconnected with them. I am with you. It's most natural for us to get angry. I'm with you on that. I'm committed that in today's conversation, we transform that. We're able to shift ourselves into having effective conversations no matter what your emotion. If the red chair made sense to you, I hope it did. I'm jumping to the second chair, which we call as the self-doubt chair. The self-doubt chair also represents the animal hedgehog, or shall I say the hedgehog represents the yellow chair. This animal, let's imagine, I hold it in my hand. It's a cute, fuzzy little animal. It can just fit into my palm like that. And then I poke at it. If I just poke at it, it'll immediately roll up into a ball, protecting itself from the external stimulus and environment. To explain the yellow chair in a different way, if the red chair is all about judging, criticizing, blaming, and labeling, I repeat, judging, criticizing, blaming, and labeling on the outside, the yellow chair is the red chair turned outside in. So it's like all the judgment and criticism and blaming and labeling towards yourself. I'm not good enough. I didn't do this right. I just don't have it in me. They just, these guys know how to do it better. Oh, they've accomplished so much. I have not. I missed out on my education. I missed out on doing dash. I missed out on an opportunity. I just don't have it in me. Blah, blah, blah. I hope it rings a bell somewhere. When I'm standing in front of Mr. Mehta and Mr. Mehta says, this is a rubbish idea, it's not going to work, there is a good chance I could slip into the yellow chair. In that moment when he says, this is a rubbish idea, it's not going to work, right then a thought crosses my mind. Oh my God, I am doomed. I've lost my chance at this presentation. These guys think I'm a joke. I just sent Priya for this. I so don't have it in me, etc., etc. So you could call it nervousness, you could call it lack of confidence, you could just call it self-doubt, call it what you want. It's strongly disempowering for you to be there. And therefore, anything you try to communicate will be like a but, if, please, will you, maybe. Your words would be very apologetic, obliging, because internally, the dialogue here is, I'm not good enough. So whatever I try to give you in terms of templates and words and phrases on the top, you'll probably last like a little sprint of 100 meters. But if you really are looking for a strong shift in the way you communicate, you want to transform. Who is the person talking inside? That's one of the key things I'd like you to know. So jumping back to your difficult conversation, each one of you, I hope you got a chance to reflect. There's a difficult conversation you participated in. 41% partially outcome accomplished. 30% said no, outcome not accomplished. 30% say yes, outcome accomplished, but you probably wish it happened differently. So my invitation to all of you, participate with me in the next poll. Ria, could you have the next poll come up, please?
Sure, Mira.
The next poll is, which chair were you on in that difficult? Inviting all of you to select. Did you see yourself in the red, in the yellow, or both, or neither? Yeah, neither is a possibility. Maybe at this point in time, the chairs don't exactly completely relate. Fabulous, fabulous. Okay, we see quite an equal distribution of people here. Okay, I'm giving you guys another 30 seconds. Okay, I think the answer looks mostly frozen right now. Okay. All right. Okay, I am very impressed with how the poll has come about. We have 37% yellow, and we have 20% in the red chair and 23% in both. I am so glad that you are able to see yourself in these chairs. You're with me. I'm standing with you in this conversation. Now, I realize how sometimes helpless we can be in some conversations. Like, you want to be effective, but unfortunately, it doesn't occur to you how else to be. How else do I respond? How else do I interact? What could I have said that would have helped in that situation? Now, if that's your commitment, it's mine too. And I want to take you to how to start to find a way to jump out of these chairs. Before I go forward, I'd like to please clarify. Even after you've completed the webinar today and you've gathered the skill sets of, oh, okay, this is how I leave the red chair, this is how I leave the yellow chair, I'd like you to know there will be time and again situations every day where you will find yourself in the red chair and you'll find yourself in the yellow chair. So walking through this webinar is not immunity from getting into these chairs. Walking through this webinar is awareness of how to catch yourself in the chair and then jump out of the chair. If you think I take you through this webinar and I practice the chair significantly well, the answer is yes, I practice it. But if you think I don't sit on the red chair, oh no. You should have seen how I was this morning when trying to take my daughter out of her bed so that she would get to school on time. There are red chair days. There are yellow chair days. The question is, how soon do you identify it? So I trust you're committed to finding a way, accessing yourself out of these helpless conversations that we may be having. So getting on to the next chair, which we call as the green chair, also called as the weight chair, and it's represented by the animal, the meerkat. Now, when we see this animal in its habitat, you would see this animal stands just like this. It can walk on its four, it can walk on two. But it loves to stand on its two legs like this and be able to just keep seeing far into the distance. It'll keep watching its entire environment. Let me use the word, it'll keep observing. So key word it does is observe, observe, observe. Anytime it hears something that's different from the natural environment, it does not immediately come into an attack position, or it doesn't go run behind a rock and hide. That's not what this animal does. When it hears something, it immediately looks in that direction and then keeps observing very, very keenly in that direction from where that sound came. This is how the meerkat behaves. How does this relate to us in the human world? All those moments when something disturbing happens on the outside, our mind immediately makes a meaning of the situation. I repeat, anything disturbing happens on the outside, our mind immediately makes a meaning. For example, you wrote to the client and the client hasn't written back to you It's been 2 days. Look at the set of thoughts that run through your head. You might think they didn't like what I wrote as a proposal. You might think they've already probably found somebody else to fulfill their need. You might think uh, you didn't create a great impression and therefore they don't like you already, or they've rejected you already, or they don't want to work with you. Look at the amount of thoughts that run through your head when something does not go, in your view, positively well or in alignment with what you thought. That is us jumping into a red chair or a yellow chair. If the client did not get back, you might say, what loser like people. They have no etiquette. At least they could close the loop and tell me that they don't want to work with me. They haven't responded, but we are easy to jump into the red chair. They haven't responded, but you've already made certain interpretations in your head that, this person doesn't want to work with me, and probably I wasn't good enough to impress them. They may not have liked my proposal. I certainly don't know how to put it together. All those meanings start to collect, and we go into the yellow chair. So the green chair is all about, no matter what happens in a situation, you have the ability to see the situation just as it is without any added meaning attached. So when I don't get an email, that's it. I did not get an email. Do I immediately make a meaning of it? No, I'm training myself not to make a meaning. So what am I supposed to do from there? Oh, we will go to the next chairs to discover what to do from there. But base level, first step, let's quit making meanings. When Mr. Mehta says, Mira, this is a rubbish idea, it's not going to work, the first meaning in my head, what a jerk. How dare he do da da da? That's me going into the red chair. That's me instantly making this person wrong because I made a meaning in my head. But let's go back to the original thing that happened. The person said, Mira, this is a rubbish idea. It's not going to work. So Mr. Mehta said it's a rubbish idea. I did not say it's a rubbish idea. The other stakeholders did not say it was a rubbish idea. Yes, one stakeholder said it's a rubbish idea. Does not mean it is a rubbish idea. Awareness of understanding that certain things that are called out in a room are not exactly to be interpreted towards failure. That awareness is what the green chair gives us. Just see what happened just as it is. And even in conversation, call it out just as it is. So when Mr. Mehta says this is a rubbish idea, and I was interacting with Mr. Mehta, you will see how in the blue chair, I would find a way to bring that information up. I wouldn't just call it out as, oh, sorry, I didn't know I couldn't, I thought I was going to solve the situation here. You wouldn't go into that kind of a dialogue. You would call out exactly what was said in a non-offensive manner. We will jump to just that. But I hope you're with me in identifying that the green chair is about dropping meanings that we make and ensuring we stay with what happened factually. Somebody might call an idea a rubbish idea, but may even suggest a couple of tweaks that eventually have the idea become a fantastic idea. So if you could hold yourself back from calling it a failure already and just say, okay, this person said dash. Now somebody could actually say on your face, you're irresponsible, or you have no interest in serving the client, or you don't have the necessary skills to be promoted to dash role. People could say that. My question to you, could you please be careful ensuring that you do not immediately attach a meaning to what was said? If dash person said that you don't have the skills to be promoted to the next level, or dash person said that you do not have an interest in the client, I'd like you to take a pause and just understand whoever said it, is there credibility to that person? Whoever said it, what is the commitment of that person towards you? You want to look for other aspects and not just at what the person said. Please quit making meanings out of what you just saw. I trust this conversation is going the places in you where it is meant to go, and you're with me on how to transition out from the chairs, yellow and red, towards the more empowering conversations. So, the green chair, we give up making meaning. No matter what Mr. Mehta says, no matter what somebody says in the room, we're not going to ignore it. We're going to consider it, but we're not going to let it get attached to it. When it's so close to us, we start making meanings. When we're able to see what somebody said, we're not so attached to it. We're able to keep a distance with it. We're not entangled with it. We're able to keep a distance with it. And therefore choose what other way we want to communicate with this person. Therefore, jumping onto the next chair. So pay full attention because this is the part where you now get into action. The green chair was all about observing. The blue chair is about taking action. The blue chair is represented by the animal, the dolphin. You may ask me, Mira, why the dolphin? A dolphin is an animal, if you ever see, the usual words that will come to your mind to describe it would be, what a joyful dolphin, what a dancing dolphin, what a thriving dolphin, what hero dolphin, what a happy dolphin, what an excited dolphin. You would choose fantastic uh, adjectives for describing a dolphin. And let's equate this to our human world. You are sometimes in the presence of some people who, in a situation, seem to mostly always know what to say, when to say, and how to say. You might be in the presence of some leaders, a mentor, a colleague, and you can visibly see, the way they conduct themselves in a scene. They're very assertive. For the life of you, you're trying to figure out, how do I shift from being aggressive to assertive? I've been asked to be assertive, but I'm unsure of how to be. But I see this other person, and I'm very impressed by how they're always able to just, whatever they are needing, they're able to call it out. They don't hold themselves back in a conversation. You don't see them necessarily offend anybody. If somebody was to be offended, that's really their choice. But you see that they're pretty adept at holding a conversation. I trust that you all are imagining somebody in your head right now. Some of you may be imagining yourself right now, which is also completely fine. Like I said, none of these chairs is a personality type. All of us have walked these chairs. Literally, all of us have walked these chairs. I'm only helping you identify the moments you have so that you can dial up those moments even more. So if the blue chair is about people who just know what to say, when to say, how to say, I'm giving you a key formula, an absolute key formula that if you went behind and saw, oh, how does this person in the blue chair operate? How does somebody express themselves as fulfilling? How does it work? So this is what I want to share with you. Anybody in the blue chair at any point in time, especially in a conversation which is difficult or challenging in some way, at that point in time, the person is always aware of two things. Write this down. What am I feeling? And what do I need? I repeat, what am I feeling in a given situation? And what is it that I need as an outcome from that situation? People in this chair, because have clarity of these two things, are therefore able to articulate this in a conversation. So even when someone in a conversation, imagine you're in a difficult conversation with your boss and you're asking for your promotion, and the person says, I don't think your skill sets are currently cut out for that next position. But you're very determined. See, what happens is, in that moment when you have been told that you don't have the necessary skill sets, at a feeling level, you may feel disappointed. You may feel a certain dejection. But at a need level, you can still identify what you want. At a need level, what you're looking for is growth. What you're looking for is a little validation of your efforts. You're looking for a next level. Therefore, you could hold your ground in that conversation and say, hey, I heard what you said. And I acknowledge that it does disappoint me to know that I may not necessarily be up to the mark. But at the same time, I am very intentional that I find the next step. I find validation for my work, for the amount of effort I have put in. And therefore, what I'm seeking from you is support and possibly guidance on how do I move to the next level sooner or faster. So it's very natural for us to get defensive and say, oh, but I've done so much. Oh, but I haven't, I've given it my best. I have been appreciated and recognized by clients and spaces. I think I deserve the next promotion. You could defend all you want, or you could jump to a more progressive conversation and say, hey, I acknowledge what you said. And there is a feeling inside. But I want you to know that the feeling is more because I would still be wanting to look at an opportunity at a next level. So please tell me, what can I do to accomplish the next level? And that's how we progressively move forward in conversations. Let's take a moment and go back to Mr. Mehta. Mr. Mehta says, Mira, this is a rubbish idea. It's not going to work. And that's when you gather yourself, you have a look at Mr. Mehta, you see yourself in the green chair, you make sure you're not making any meanings. If you're making any meanings, you're letting go of it, you're walking on the red chairs. And in the blue chair, you say, Mr. Mehta, depending on the dynamics in the room, depending on how important the stakeholder is, I trust you'll find ways to measure this. Okay. Depending on the scenario, you could assert yourself and say, Mr. Mehta, I can see that there certainly is some value to be coming from you. I'd like to take the next 5 minutes to take you through something that could shift our perspectives. Would you please give me those 5 minutes right now? So what happens is in that conversation, you acknowledged Mr. Mehta very politely, and you said, I would require the next 5 minutes to complete a certain part where we could show you how it's done. So you asked for what you want. You didn't dance around, you didn't get awkward, you didn't get like suddenly like, oh, should I go backward, front? You had a chance. Depending on your stakeholder, depending on your credibility in the room, you could take such a call where you would tell the person, I'd like to take my presentation forward. So if this is the blue chair, and the blue chair, if you really go deeper, you start to see what a bond chair this is. And you're like, yeah, Mira, get me here. This is the place I belong. This is where I really need to exercise and develop my muscle. And I want you to know, keep practicing what you're feeling and keep practicing what you need. But there is another chair which is extremely essential. And now I'm bringing you to the next chair. The next chair is called as the connect chair. The connect chair is also represented by the animal, the giraffe. Why the giraffe? This is the only land animal with the longest neck. So with the longest neck, it has this ability that whatever is happening in front of it, it can certainly see. But it can also see very, very far ahead, like really far into the distance. It has such a clear vision. So what that means in the human world for us is, when you're present in a conversation, can you be so responsible in that conversation that you're very, very aware everything that I'm speaking here is not going to be limited to here. It's going to have a much larger impact going forward. Does that mean I quiet myself and not talk? Or no, express yourself. Express yourself, be in complete awareness. Whatever I say will have a certain consequence into the future, and your choice of words will determine will the consequence be in your favor or otherwise. I repeat, your choice of words will determine will the consequence be in your favor or otherwise. So keep that long neck in conversations. Nothing is solitary. Everything has a carryover effect. The second thing, a giraffe is the only land animal with the biggest heart. It literally has a gigantic heart. And for us, that represents empathy. Let me tangibilize empathy for you. If the blue chair is all about being very aware of your own feeling and need in any conversation, the purple chair is all about being aware of the other person's feeling and need. Now, let's all walk into that difficult conversation. I'm walking into that difficult conversation with Mr. Mehta. I want all of you to also walk into that difficult conversation that you had thought of. If you've taken the time to see what was your blue chair in it and what was your feeling and need in it, that's fantastic. But let's also take the moment to check what was the other person feeling and what did they need. So when I sit on the red chair, I see Mr. Mehta as arrogant and jerk and somebody just trying to get attention. He's trying to get footage in the room. That's me speaking from the red chair. If I say that, oh, he's just feeling like he has to assert himself, that's me speaking from the red chair. And by the way, what I said is not a feeling. He's not feeling like asserting himself. The purple chair is about me either anticipating or clearly asking, what is it like for that person to say what they say? When I'm here listening to Mr. Mehta, the feelings that come to my mind, when somebody walks into a meeting room, here ready to listen to a presentation, but once the presentation starts, the person says, this is a rubbish idea. It's not going to work. I can instantly gather that this person is feeling disappointed with what they are seeing. That's a feeling. They are disappointed with what they are seeing. And what is it that they need? Well, they certainly would need an idea that would work. Well, they would need some form of a progress, or they would need some form of a qualitative or promising presentation. That's their need, something promising. See, now when I see Mr. Mehta like that, he doesn't look like that much of a villain anymore. I see the person's commitment. What is the person really wanting out of the situation? What's their commitment? Yes, there is a chance the person's trying to show off their knowledge. There is a chance. There is also a chance the person's really just trying to impose their view on others. There is a chance. But if I choose to keep looking at Mr. Mehta from that angle, I am so stuck on my red chair. And which is why I'm inviting you. People don't just have one angle to be viewed from. People have various other angles to be viewed for. And I'm choosing to view Mr. Mehta from another space. I want to really know. I'm putting all that other noise away and I want to know what does Mr. Mehta feel and what does Mr. Mehta need. And if I can anticipate this, then my conversation with him would be something like this. He says, Mira, this is a rubbish idea. It's not going to work. And I pause because I'm practicing the green chair. I have a soft smile on my face. I'm looking at him. And I say, okay, Mr. Mehta, I am going to put my presentation aside because I just heard you and I'm sensing that this work isn't in alignment with what you would like. Could you help me understand what is it that you're looking for? Now, in this moment, when I say what is it that you're looking for, I am just going to shut up and I'm going to have the other person talk, express, share. I'm going to avoid defending. I'm going to avoid trying to push my work on Mr. Mehta because the person already has a barrier here. But what I'm really going to choose is I'm going to call out what I sense the person is feeling. So I could call out, I sense that this isn't aligned and this could be a little disappointing. But I can see that you're looking for something more promising or more meaningful. So could I understand what is it that you're looking for? Your choice of words really matter here. So I'm inviting you to be cautious and careful of what you're projecting. Inviting you to see the more we sit in the red and the yellow, the more disconnected we are. The more we sit in the blue and the purple, the more in service we are of the interactions and the people we are with. Folks, thank you so much for paying attention through and through this entire conversation of the 5 chairs. I do hope that this stays with you as is. Requesting for questions to come in. Ria, I'm looking at the questions tab. I don't particularly see anything. Could we invite questions in, please? Folks, I understand that all of you would be on mute, and this is a participation that you can do through typing your comments or concerns in the question box. So I'm inviting you to use that tab so that we have access to your questions. Thank you for the feedback, everybody. This is very reassuring. Okay, I see a question. Thank you so much, Nupur. How to move from the red to the purple chair? How would it move from Nupur? Thank you for asking that question. I'd like you to know, once you develop the muscle, you can transition from the red chair to the purple chair in literally less than a second. That's how quickly you can have a thought of anger, and you could shift that thought of anger to a deliberate thought of what is this other person's commitment, what are they feeling, and what do they need. Your question could be further refined to ask, Mira, how long will it take for me to learn how to shift from the red to the purple chair? How long will it take for me to learn that? I really appreciate you asking this. This is something I can share with experience. There was a time when I used to lead a 10-week session, which was a communication coaching for a group of people. We would run it for 10 weeks, and people over 10 weeks would then be able to say, oh, okay, now I see myself so present in conversations that I can be my best self. So when you put in conscious effort, you walk with a coach, you allow yourself to be guided and led. It could take anything between 6 to 8 weeks for you to start to get a good grip on your pattern in such conversations. I hope that answers your question, Nupur. Thank you for asking. All right, we've got a question from Tamara. Yes, Tamara, we see your question. Please ask us. I just see a statement that says I have a question. While Tamara sends us this question, I'm reading Shantanu's question. How to put other people on either the red or the yellow chair and then get what you want, preferably looking to dominate and assert authority. Okay, all right. Shantanu, I'm not quite sure if I'm the apt person to respond to this question, because the intention of our work is not to push buttons so that somebody is manipulated into an anger tantrum. That's not our intention. I'm inviting you to find collaborative methods, because that's what I practice. If you choose to not walk the 5 chairs, and if you choose to find some way of manipulating, yeah, there's several ways you can push people onto the red or the yellow chair. One of the places to start is you could sit in the red and the yellow chair in full awareness and just be there, and the other person could get triggered. So you could try that. But I'm inviting you that you could assert yourself without necessarily authority and title. And you could have a dominating presence, but not a offensive or intimidating one. I repeat, you could have a dominant presence, yet not an intimidating one, by being more and more in the blue chair. And there's another conversation. The more you're in the blue chair, there is a certain set of people who would continue to possibly be jealous of you. So you're kind of meeting your intention if you practice the blue chair more often. I trust that helps, Shantanu. Thank you. All right, so Tamara, how do we quickly analyze different chairs people are in a global meeting with participants from different geographies, and as I facilitate and manage? Okay, thank you for asking this, Tamara, and I want to clarify this for everybody. My purpose of taking you through the 5 chairs is not so that you can analyze, this person is in the purple chair, this person is in the red chair, this person is in the green chair. That's not why we took you through this model. We took you through this model not to get personality types. We took you through this model more as a self-awareness tool. We want you to catch yourself in the chair. And we want you to catch yourself in the red chair. We want you to catch yourself in the yellow chair and ask yourself, am I my most effective self right now? Am I being able to deliver what needs to be delivered right now? If that answer is a no, that means it's time to switch chairs. That's the purpose, Tamara. I trust that is helpful. So instead of trying to categorize or bucket or analyze people, I'm inviting you to analyze yourself in a situation and instantly jump to what am I feeling, what do I need from this audience, irrespective of who they are. What am I feeling and what do I need from this audience? And when you're in front of an audience, really just jumping to when this person said that, what were they feeling? What do they need? Or can I have a dialogue with them to understand what is it that they need so that I can find a way to have that need be met? Tamara, I trust this was useful for you. Okay, Hema, Mr. Mehta was not listening, though you're trying to connect as he's in favor of another person. How to handle the situation? Okay, Mr. Mehta was not listening, though you're trying to connect as he's in favor of another person. How to handle the situation? Got you, Hema. Okay, now this question makes sense. So there's a chance that I'm presenting my idea to Mr. Mehta, but Mr. Mehta is going to just completely call it off because Mr. Mehta would like to support somebody else's idea. If that is the case, it's completely fine, Hema. We're not there to control Mr. Mehta. But there are several ways for you to strategize how to have your presence be felt. Our intention is that we demonstrate immense value. And for us to demonstrate immense value, we have got to find maximum opportunity. Whether Mr. Mehta chooses to take us is secondary. That's really out of our control. But my intent in the room is I demonstrate immense value and I get all the opportunity I can to bring myself in their presence. So even if Mr. Mehta keeps disposing like, oh no, it's not going to work like that, or that's not how it's going to be, I'm inviting you to then be a combination of the purple and the blue chair. So the purple chair is, Mr. Mehta, could you describe what happened that you think this idea won't work? I'm interested and curious in your experience. Could you describe a situation that tells you this won't work? I don't want you to come in a challenging manner, Hema. I'd like you to bring your most curious self, tuning into that conversation. When Mr. Mehta speaks, somewhere it will become evident, is this person just talking on the surface because they like somebody else? Or are they genuinely talking from experience that, hey, these are the things that failed in the past? Or this will not work because dash keeps happening and you have not given me a solution for dash. So if you start to tactfully confront Mr. Mehta, it will become evident. Mr. Mehta is also going to be a smart person who will understand that there is how much credibility in their debate. A very wise thing I would recommend you do when you're in a room and you need to get an approval from a decision maker, it is extremely essential that in advance you have strategized a little. You have figured who is the advisor to the decision maker. There is a decision maker in the room, there is an advisor in the room, and there are certain people who are there for information only. So I'm inviting you to figure who these people are in advance to whatever capacity you can. And in advance, find a way to get through to the advisor, put in the idea in their head already, if you can. So within organizations, it's possible to do that. If it's an absolutely external client, there are challenges. But if you can get through to the advisor, your levels of barriers in the room are significantly lesser. So when Mr. Mehta already looks like he wants to take on somebody else, you then direct the conversation to the advisor and say, Mr. Gupta, I understand that you would also have experience in this area. Please could you share your view on this matter? Hema, this way you're being strategically smart with how you have these conversations in the room. I hope that was helpful. Okay. Yes, Tamara, we did query your question. I understand that you're a facilitator. Yes, Tamara, I read it. The intent is to provide the meeting for all these 5 chairs and get a successful outcome or complete the purpose of the meeting. I'm completely with you, Tamara, that the intention is to get people in that particular interaction completely satisfied. I'm again inviting you, let's avoid looking at your audience as sitting in different chairs. If you continue to look at your audience like that, you wouldn't be able to serve them. In your head, if you're thinking this guy's in the red chair, it's going to be difficult to interact with this person, you have already blocked this person from communicating with you. Instead, I'm inviting you to ask yourself, am I in the red chair when I'm thinking about this person? Am I in the yellow chair right now when I'm thinking about am I doubting myself when I have to go talk to this person? Am I doubting myself for the value that I can create for this room right now? Am I doubting myself for bringing this entire room in sync right now? How can I shift that? How can I jump out of this yellow state? How can I jump into the blue state? Can I clarify for myself what is the outcome that I want? If I would like a clear outcome to be accomplished, I am going to make sure I announce that outcome in the first 2 minutes of that briefing. If I am briefing an audience, I'm going to ensure that I announce that outcome in the first 2 minutes. I did that for all of you today. I very clearly said, I'm intending to give you a model in communication that when you get out of this webinar, go back into your life, you practically apply. Your questions are telling me you're already looking to apply it. So Tamara, my invitation to you, watch yourself in those chairs. Ask yourself what you're feeling, ask yourself what you need, and then push that forward. Okay. I appreciate your message, Vipul. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hema, but people using this for SWOT purpose. Okay. I trust, Hema, you're saying that people use the chairs for the SWOT purpose. I wouldn't be aware how the chairs could be used for a SWOT analysis. But yes, people do tend to challenge us in a room to check what your strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat is. They could be wanting to determine you better. I'm inviting you, instead of trying to read so much into their manipulative intent, I'm inviting you to have an open conversation and challenge the person tactfully. Why do you say this idea would not work? What do you recommend be presented to you so that you would accept it? I understand if you wouldn't want to work on this project with us. I am curious, what are you looking for and where have you seen it successful before? So I'm inviting you to ask the tough questions, Hema. You could do a SWOT analysis for that person. Okay. Thank you, Shantanu, for acknowledging you've come across these concepts in How to Win Friends and Influence People. So true. That book is one in a million, so underrated. Looks like worth it. Look in look in the other person's point of view. So true. That's precisely what the purple chair is all about. Look in the other person's point of view. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Shantanu. I really appreciate everybody's participation, questions, feedback. It has been very, very satisfying for me. I am walking out feeling like the blue chair myself today. Thank you. It has been beautiful to interact with you. Very quickly, some of you are still here. I want to quickly share with you that there is still work that I would like to share. I mentioned it earlier, I'm sharing it again. A key part of the way I keep offering my services is I do corporate trainings and individual coaching. But one beautiful way I could stay connected with all of you is I'm available on LinkedIn, Instagram, and a few other key social media channels. My interest is that you be willing to grasp as much more like this training today. You saw the 5 chairs, this is relatively more elaborate, but I keep giving bite-sized content on my YouTube channel, Instagram, LinkedIn. And if you get a chance, you could just scan this and reach the space where I keep offering information for you to consume. So I truly hope that this information here helped you and you could continue to gain the most out of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your invaluable insights, I would say. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
it was certainly a very informative session for all of you. I'd like to thank everyone. We appreciate you being here. We shall be sending out the webinar recordings to all the participants soon. I request you to kindly provide feedback before signing off, which will help us improve the quality of our future events. Thanks again for joining us today. Signing off on behalf of Team Springpeople. Hope to see you again for our next expert webinar. Thank you.